Welcome back. We are talking about Achilles tendinopathy tonight, and it's number 4, our last video in the series of what not to do with your Achilles tendinopathy. So why and what are we going to talk about in detail? We're going to talk about 3 things. Number 1 being rest, number 2 being overload, and number 3 being stretching. So why are we talking about these things? Because number 1, rest, if we dive into detail here, can cause your tendons and the muscles around that area, meaning your calf muscles, the big gastroc muscle that looks like a butt, it has a medial and a lateral head or inner and outer head, then your soleus, which is underneath it, and really lean people or in marathon runners, you can kind of see it popping out on the sides. Those can become very atrophied, or they can shrink in size, they can become weak, and they become unable to tolerate load and use that as a spring, so to speak. Okay, so that is rest. If you rest too long, you kind of make that tendon get really weak, and that can lead to more dysfunction and more issues down the road. Even if it feels better in the short term, you're actually doing yourself more harm than good. So pay attention to that. Make sure you're writing down these things, guys. This is super important too. I don't care if you're using a Google Doc, if you're using a Word doc, or if you have a notebook and you're being old school. Do what you can. This is going to be helpful for any runners, basketball players, or volleyball players out there, even weightlifters who are doing a lot of box jumps. All right, number 2 is overload. You risk resetting your injury back to the day that it happened. Say it happened 2 months ago. You're feeling great. You're doing so well with your rehab plan. Everything's feeling great. You're getting back into jumping, and then you do too much too soon. Maybe you're holding a super heavy kettlebell doing heel raises, or maybe you're just doing too many box jumps in too short a period of time, and then you re-spark the inflammatory phase, so you actually go backwards, and that's not something you want to do. So you want to go slow, you want to progress things very, very slowly over time, and you want to make sure if you're very sore during your workout or the day after, you kind of scale back a little bit, okay? And that's where a rehab professional like a physical therapist comes into play. So that is rest and overload, and then the number 3 one is stretching. Okay, stretching, like we mentioned in the previous 2 videos, if you haven't seen those, go back and watch them. They're super, super important. You do not want to stretch an insertional injury to your Achilles, meaning if you have pain on that kind of bottom of the heel there, where the Achilles tendon inserts into the calcaneus or the heel bone, you do not want to stretch it. Or if it's a peritendon injury, meaning if it's an injury on that surrounding area around the tendon, on the sides, you don't want to stretch it either. And usually peritendon injuries will kind of show like a lot of cracking, a lot of clicking. That's a major diagnostic sign to know if you have that injury. So it would only make it worse if you have one of those 2 things, because you're causing compression. Okay, you're going to be causing compression by stretching. It's going to irritate the heel area. It's going to cause more inflammation. And just like resting for too long or overloading too quick, you're going to get set backwards. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how. How do we avoid these things of not resting too long, of not overloading too much, or of not stretching when we shouldn't be stretching? You want to find a physical therapist who knows what they're doing, who's worked with people like you. Maybe they work with weightlifters, maybe they work with runners if you're a runner. You may need to work on a stiff ankle joint. You may need to have them mobilize that ankle joint. You may need to use banded mobilizations to help. You may have to work on tight, stiff, kind of locked up muscles, being your calf muscles around that joint. Maybe it's not that. Maybe you just need to work on loading the tendon because it's really weak. It could be all 3 of those things, or it could be one out of those 3. And you don't want to waste your time doing all of them every day, because you can make it worse. Okay, so that's why it's so important to find someone who is well educated and confident, and they know how to fix your issue, and they worked with people just like you before. Okay, and you have to feel comfortable with them and get along with them too. That's so, so important as well. All right, and then the other thing is you want to use a green, yellow, red light system, just like you would if you stopped at a red light. You're coming home from work, you're going to work in the morning, whatever the case may be. If your pain is at a greater than a 3 out of 10, right, in 10's emergency room, 0's no pain, then that's a red light. That just means you want to stop. What you're doing is too aggressive. You need to scale it back and either decrease the load or decrease your sets and reps, or decrease the duration of how long you're doing it, or the frequency that you're doing it at, like how many days per week. If it's less than 3 out of 10, it's a yellow. So you can keep going. That is perfectly fine. You just want to proceed with caution, right? Maybe there's a cop in the parking lot next to you. Yellow just means you can keep going, but you want to do it at a slower pace, because maybe that cop is watching you. Maybe that tendon is like, oh, I know what's going on here, but it's okay, just tread lightly. Okay, and then the last one, if it's 0 out of 10 pain, right? No pain, no discomfort, not even soreness or stiffness, that's a green light. Progress onwards, that is perfectly fine. Okay, and if there's one thing I can say to sum all that up, try to only change one variable at a time. When I say variable, I mean a training variable. And that means only change one of these things. I'm going to list them. There's about 4 in total. Sets, reps, load, and frequency. Right? So if you're doing 3 sets of 10, maybe you scale back to doing 2 sets of 10 if you have a lot of pain or stiffness. Right? Or maybe you're doing 3 sets of 12 and you kind of reset down to 3 sets of 10 instead. Maybe your load, you're doing 40-pound kettlebell in your hand, doing a single leg heel raise. Cut that down to 30-pound kettlebell. Okay, duration, maybe you're doing it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but it's too much and it's too sore, so you cut back to Monday, Wednesday. So you go from 3 days a week to 2 days a week. And then the other thing, that would be more frequency. Duration would be for how long you're doing it. Maybe it takes you 20 minutes to do your calf workout, and then you want to cut it back because it's too painful, it's too stiff, it's not allowing time, proper adequate time to recover. So you cut it back to kind of doing 10 minutes instead of 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going to say those one more time: sets, reps, load, frequency, and duration. Those are the kind of main ones, right? There's 5 in total. I might have said 4 before. That's why I'm a physical therapist, right? I don't need to count. So super, super important. I let you guys do the counting, so don't hold me accountable for that. But hopefully this just pins everything together over the last 4 videos of this month of what we've talked about. It's been awesome helping. We've had so many like basketball players reach out to us, runners, also volleyball players, even weightlifters, especially CrossFitters who are doing like repetitive box jumps over and over. This has been really helpful, and we thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been amazing giving you feedback, helping provide you with education, and then giving you some rehab kind of experience that has helped a lot of my clients that can help you too, or a friend who's dealing with the same issue, or a weightlifting buddy. Okay, so if you found this interesting, valuable, we want to give back to you guys just because you've been watching for so long. We really truly appreciate it. We'd like to offer you our free Achilles tendon rehab plan that we give our clients that they currently go through to get out of pain and also improve their load-bearing capacity so they can build up that tensile strength and then avoid further injury or kind of damaging their Achilles tendon. So this is going to have a nice full plan for you. It's going to go through about 4 things in detail. And those 4 things are where your pain is and why that's important. Number 2 is how to figure out what's going on. Number 3 is going to give you soreness rules. So it's going to teach you like when you should regress and scale back if you're too sore or stiff, and when you should progress when you're feeling really good and your pain's at a 3 out of 10 or less. Okay, then it's also the most important part of it. It's going to give you a 3-phase treatment plan or rehab plan. It's going to have a nice table for you and boxes. It's going to have pictures of the exercises for you. So this is awesome, guys. We're giving this all to you for free just to thank you so much for watching. All right, so if you want this, comment with an ankle emoji down below, since we've been talking about the ankle for the past month and that's the theme. If you'd like a copy, we'd be glad to share it with you. And lastly, don't forget to like, comment below, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much and have a great rest of your night. And we will talk to you next week in our video. Take care.